Business owners, listen up. There is money in the couch cushions. We're talking tax credits. That's next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show. Obviously, we are still in a recession, and a lot of small business owners are struggling, but they don't need to be struggling if they take advantage of the legal tax credits that are available to them. To talk about that today, Joshua Massoud, he is with Tax Credit Collective. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Okay, now this is what we should say up front. This is totally legal. This is part of the tax code.
These are not loopholes. A lot of these credits have been around for 40 years, came about in the Reagan tax reform during the 80s. So yeah, perfectly normal, typical things that businesses over $250 million a year capture almost 95% of the time. And businesses under $50 million a year traditionally only captured about 17% of the time. So it's really just an educational thing.
Well, I'm sure you run into small business owners all the time that say, oh, I'm sure my CPA knows all of this stuff. And the CPAs don't. No disrespect, but they're kind of a generalist, and you're a heart surgeon.
That couldn't be more true. CPAs generally are going to know a mile across the tax code. They're going to know a little bit about everything, and they'll probably be able to identify when a tax credit might be at issue, but they may not have the legal expertise or engineering expertise in-house to capture some of these more specialized or nuanced tax credits.
We were talking just before the show, and you had a story that you like to tell of a business owner you helped.
Yeah, they're a $7 million oil tool manufacturer, and they had no idea that these tax credits were available. And we approached them about the time the Affordable Care Act had rolled out, and they had to make a decision based on their employee count. Did they cut employees? Did they lower salaries across the board? They were going to have to make some really difficult financial decisions, unfortunately. The vice president said it was the best cold call he ever took. We were able to recover them over $250,000 per year based on stuff that they were already doing that they just didn't know qualified for some state incentives that were nuanced and particular to them. That's really where that heart surgeon approach comes in. We were able to quickly identify the eligibility, help them capture it, and then when the state reviewed the incentives applied for, we're able to successfully defend them.
And just so the audience understands, you can go back in time. How many years?
So on the federal side, generally speaking, about 3 open tax years. There are some specialized rules if you were in losses and things like that. We may be able to carry forward credits from even further back. We do that a lot with software development companies as well.
We've got a picture of you out there speaking when we're not social distancing. I know you love to go out there and speak to different audiences. What's the topic usually?
Generally speaking, the number one credit that we're able to identify for companies across the board is the research and development tax credit, really called the credit for increasing research activities. And it has broad application to anybody developing a new product or an improved product, process, technique, invention, or computer software. So it has broad application to a lot of different types of businesses, and we're often able to recover credits that way. We call those activity-based credits, and there's other types of credits as well that will sort of filter through from there once we've looked at that credit in particular.
And I know we're in the campaign season, so a lot of people are voting with their wallets. Is there a difference between a Trump presidency and a Biden presidency in your mind?
There is from a tax perspective, and I'm only speaking through that lens. We'll leave the politics aside. But Biden does have a tax proposal out there. It does have some changes. The changes are geared towards larger corporations. There are a number of tax credits and incentives that are a part of that plan that we're keeping a very keen eye on, because they're going to specifically benefit small to mid-sized businesses, and we want to immediately be able to bring those to those businesses once they're made available, if they're made available.
So tell me how it works when somebody contacts you for the first time. You sit down as kind of a free consultation to see if you're a fit, or how does that work?
Conversations are free. We work on a value-add basis. If I can't bring money to the table, then we don't charge, no matter how much time or effort we spend in a project. And we do have instances, we try our best not to get into these situations, but we do have instances where we will engage a client, we'll get through phase one of our process, which is really a scoping phase, and we recognize that there was some material issue that we just couldn't figure out over the phone, and when we dived into the documents, unfortunately they're not going to be eligible, and we walk away. No harm, no foul.
What percentage would you say you're able to help?
Of clients that come to us, generally speaking, CPAs refer us a significant portion of the clients that we entertain today. And so I would say, by and large, those candidates, very few of those we ultimately determine that they're not eligible. Clients that we pitch independently or through some sort of other referral that may not have access to their tax documents, it's about 50-50. A lot of times we're able to find something, sometimes we're not. That's what the conversation piece is for.
And I know you love working with CPAs. You're not a threat to a CPA.
No.
You're just, you have knowledge that goes beyond theirs and can end up making the CPA look good that they brought you in.
Well, what we bring to a CPA is a lot of national providers do have the service that we offer. And as a result, a regional CPA or a 30, 50-man shop or person shop may not have this service, but they may have clients that are eligible. And the last thing you want to do right now is lose a client because you weren't able to identify that tax credits could be at play, and at least speak to the client and bring someone to the table that can vet that for them. Because one of two things is going to happen. You can put the issue to bed, which we looked at it, great, it's not a fit, no problem. We have plenty of those conversations. Or you do find something and now you're a hero because you've brought a 6-figure tax credit to the table that's going to allow your client to add people or add machines or add technology or something like that.
And ultimately, the government wants small businesses to do well. Otherwise, they're not paying their taxes at all. So there's a reason why these tax credits came about. The government wants you to take advantage of them.
Absolutely. If we look at some of the Reagan-era tax incentives, they were specifically geared towards businesses of all types. Reagan noted that innovation across the board had decreased in America. Japanese automakers specifically were, kicking our rear ends up and down the technology front, adding different things to cars and things like that we just weren't seeing. So this was specifically geared to help businesses in the U.S. innovate on a year-to-year basis.
Outstanding. We're almost out of time, so I want you to go ahead and look into that camera. That's your camera, and talk to the small business owner right now who's thinking, well, should I give Joshua a call?
Right now, we don't know what's going to happen next year. A lot of us are just looking at tomorrow. And what you can do today in order to prepare for tomorrow and prepare for next year and the year after that with a lot of this uncertainty is take a look at tax credits. We could get you a 6-figure tax credit recovery. That's going to give you some stability. And these are things, generally speaking, you can take on a year-to-year basis. There are export incentives, activity-based incentives like the R&D credit, hiring-based incentives like the work opportunity tax credit, property-based incentives like cost segregation. These are all tools that you should be taking advantage of, just like the $250 million and larger businesses that take these things generally about 95% of the time. Don't miss out.
Excellent advice, Joshua Massoud, Tax Credit Collective. We're going to put your website up to end this segment. It's taxcreditcollective.com. You've been an amazing guest, and thank you for sharing your wisdom.
I appreciate you having me, Jeff.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.